moments is a lot of times people don't even notice it. If you don't want to.
Yeah.
You know,
True.
it's like the vanilla wall will always be painted vanilla unless you do something about it.
Right. I love it. So you're a musician, I take it too, then.
Kind of.
Yeah. So what do you mean, kind of? Because you produced that track and wrote that song. Tell me.
Well, I kind of view myself as I've published some of my music, but I don't consider myself that. I more consider myself a hobbyist,
Sure. Yeah.
I probably would have been a lot better off in the 70s, minus the fact that I am gay and I would have had a lot of troubles being in specific areas in the United States. But besides that, I think you're right. I think it's just a matter of what you define as a musician. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. It doesn't have to be in the professional, I'm trying to, make this my singular source of income type of way.
Right. And I'm sure, if I'm not mistaken, you do other things besides music. Is that correct?
Yeah, for sure. I have a rental business and a coaching business. So, I do some marketing, a little bit of everything, but I am trying to get to the point where I can just write songs
all day, all day, all night.
Exactly.
So what have you been working on recently? Anything fun, anything exciting, anything weird?
I don't know about weird, but I've definitely been working on a bunch of sync songs. Got some cool tracks in the pipeline. But I'm actually really excited about some of the songs that I've been working on for the album that I am going to attempt to create and release in probably a couple years. It'll probably be 12, yeah. Maybe more.
Oh, okay. Somebody being a little adventurous over here.
You can't see this list. It's not clear, but there's at least 15 songs on here that some are fully written, some are just ideas, some are half written, but they all feel so important to me. So it's going to be hard narrowing that down.
It really is. And the crazy thing is a lot of the times I feel what you think is terrible is fucking amazing to another person.
Yeah.
And I've had this happen where I'm like, I don't know, I don't feel about this. And I play it and they're like, oh my God, that's fucking amazing.
Yeah.
And you're like, what? And you don't see it. You're like,
yeah.
Okay.
Too inside of it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
right?
Totally. But that's the fun of it, is feeling so excited about what you're doing in the moment.
Well, you gotta be able to start from somewhere, because the thing is that you can become so bitter as a musician, and not even as a musician, even as an artist. And I've realized this because I realize how hard I am sometimes on myself. Especially when you playing guitars and you're writing, you're like, why can't I fucking figure that out?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, well, there's this expectation of it needing to be perfect, especially the first go around. And I actually try to engage in this process with myself to not overthink it on the first run, and just kind of let the meat of the idea play itself out, and remind myself I can come back and edit it anytime I want. And that helps me kind of get to the heart of what I'm trying to say. Cause I'm always writing with my songwriter brain, oh, is that line cool? Does it rhyme? Does it make sense? You know what I mean? And that kind of tends to make things really unfun when I'm writing.
Yeah, and there it also creates kind of a false expectation. You know what I mean? Not always lyrics have to make sense.
Right.
Not always lyrics have to rhyme.
Yep.
Think about some of the most famous songs.
Yeah, totally.
Some one of them that I always go back to is Harry Styles, Watermelon Sugar High.
Yeah, such a good
Okay.
one.
It's such a good one because the song is stupid. It's
Yeah, right?
dumb. It makes
It's just
no fucking
about
sense.
yeah, it's just about, like, eating watermelon.
Exactly. And
It's
having a
great.
sugar high.
Yeah,
But
I
that's what
love that song.
but that's like what makes a song fun because like you get that great vibe that goes with it, the lyrics, and then
Yeah,
his like twist. So there is that aspect too, and you don't always think about it when you're
yeah,
in the moment. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
totally. What I love about that song is that and songs like that, that are kind of seemingly about nothing, they tend to capture, like, the moments of life that we're all experiencing, but nobody's talking about. You know, like, I feel like everyone is always so busy talking about, their breakups and their struggles and their, like the big things in life, but nobody sits to appreciate how great it is to eat like a really delicious watermelon on a beautiful summer day, you know? And they don't write about that. And I appreciate songs like that.
Well, because I feel like a lot of the times where the music is coming out of emotion,
Mhm.
and I'm gonna probably like name like a bunch of people, like, but think about like Prince, right?
Mm.
Isn't that one of the reasons why Prince was so famous? I mean, yes, he was very erotic, very sexual. Like, if he could describe a woman's body from head to
Mm.
toe in 4 minutes,
Yeah.
he would make that a song. But
Right, right.
but he had a way of being very quirky, like 1999, for example, Purple Rain,
Yeah, of
right?
course, yeah.
Adding like this almost Prince esque
Yeah. Yeah.
to it, so
Yeah.
it had like that genuinity and originality. Um, it's just I don't know, like I don't know how you tell somebody that at the very beginning, because like, well, I'm not Prince, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. Like you're
Right.
like expecting so much from me. I was like, okay, all right, heal.
Yeah. No, I think yeah, I think one of the issues with most songwriters and attempting artists is that they are kind of locked into this um chase for virality because they are under the impression that the only way to have a career is to have a viral or booming social media presence. And so they gear their writing toward like to that effect. And I think that that stops them from actually showing up as who they are in their writing, and they kind of get stuck in this trap of the persona that they've created that works for social media but that might not necessarily represent who they really are.
Yeah. I,
So, yeah.
it isn't it though interesting in how like it's kind of become an intertwine of the two things, because ever since smartphones and social media has been developed, yes, it has made things better for artists, but has also kind of ruined a lot of artists' mental health already. Because
Absolutely.
again, I'm not being judgmental. I'm as a person, I have mental health issues. I grew up in I grew up in an Orthodox Jewish cult. I
Mhm.
left there. And I have like my own baggage, my own things that I have to deal with. And I'm not
Yeah.
the only artist that has dealt with this. A lot of
Sure.
other artists have very similar or kind of off putting backgrounds. So that being said, when you throw in social media, which already creates immense amount of depression and anxiety and
Yeah.
stress for people, putting that on artists and saying like you have to post, otherwise you're not going to be successful, you're not going to
Mhm.
be famous. That is fucking terrible advice.
Yeah, it is, and it's I mean, I think about who's the advice coming from? You know, the people who already have the resources to outsource it, right?
Hmm.
These people are not, so but yes, and not to go off on too much of a tangent, but yeah, and I myself, I mean, I'm guilty as anyone. I've attempted to do the music on TikTok and do the the viral TikTok thing, and I attempted it on and off for about a year, and then I just realized this isn't working for me. It's making me miserable. It's making the process unfun and unenjoyable. And so I actually deleted it, and I was like, you know what? I'll find another way. People have developed careers without TikTok before, and they'll do it after. So it's been a journey, kind of reclaiming that power and that sense of you know um, ownership over something.
Yeah, and it's weird. Imagine the people that did become successful before social media.
Right. Yeah.
And if you think about it, like, take comedy, for example. A lot of comedians, the way that they were able to become successful comics was getting on the Johnny Carson show.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but if you think about it, it's where you have another person that's helping on another person. So, in a way,
Mhm.
you're creating this collaboration.
Mhm.
Social media doesn't do any of that. All it's doing is giving you numbers and
Mhm.
figures and generally information that may apply for other businesses that's very influential, but you're not getting that physical and mental aspect from it
Yeah.
that I think artists genuinely need. You need to be around people, you need to experience that, and there is always going to be somebody in the artist community that will put their hand out.
Yeah.
I genuinely believe that.
Yeah. Of course, it happens all the time. I mean, that's why they say the music industry is all about relationships, but not relationships like in an icky sense, like tit for tat. It's all about who are you developing friendships with? And I really, in my experience, I have yet to meet someone who I've potentially collaborated with or worked with who hasn't been more than happy to put their hand out and help. Because we there's an understanding that this is really hard to do, to create a career in music that's actually satisfying and financially sustainable is one of the hardest things to do in my experience. And and so yeah, I think what social media does is it it it's really great for the ego, but it's not good for the soul. And it gives that false sense of relationship.
And also that false sense of expectation too. I mean, it's great to build up an audience. Don't get me wrong. I
Sure.
mean, for example, as a podcaster, it would allow me to have a broader scope for other larger podcasts to reach out.
Right.
For example, as a musician, it gives you an opportunity to see if anybody can help out for production. Like you mentioned, you wanted to do an album or something,
Sure.
but within reason. The thing, like, I know this sounds bananas, and everybody's like, "Oh my god, you're Gen Z, whatever the fuck." I was born in '99, so I'm literally one of the last last groups of where we're all about the artist. That is the whole purpose of this podcast. Period. And you have a really valuable tool. You can share this with artists, people that are creative, someone that can enjoy this podcast and really enjoy the experience of Lost in the Groove. So, with that, let's jump back to today's episode, shall we? I remember seeing the world turning digital.
Yeah. Yep.
And when you experience that, it is fucking worse than the Matrix, okay? I mean, it's cool and all. It's like every year this is another fucking cool gadget. I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
I remember when the PS3 came out
Yeah.
and it was insane. You
Yeah.
remember like the thing like popped up. You're like,
You remember the Wii,
what?
when the Wii came out and you could
It was
actually like
move it
control? Yeah,
around.
it was
Yeah.
crazy. Yeah.
It's bananas. So like we have such an amazing advantage at our fingertips. And I just think that it's just a way of utilization that
Mm,
we're going to have to come to terms with. I mean, we've always abused things at the beginning,
sure.
you know. I
Yeah,
think we'll
totally.
f- I think we'll figure it out eventually.
We will, and it's like anything, it's the pendulum, right? You have to go to one extreme, and then it goes to the other, and then it eventually finds its way in the middle, right? But that process can take literally hundreds of years, and it's playing out in so many aspects all the time, every day, right? In terms of politics and civil rights and you name it, right? So, yeah, I'm with you. I think we're gonna see a lot of artists, um, and just people in general, kind of take a break, and I think it's gonna be interesting.
You know, I always had like I have this like weird thought where imagine in the future there is no Facebook,
Mm,
there's no Meta, it goes either bankrupt or turns into something completely different because they realize
yeah,
they can't grab the market anymore.
yeah,
Like you mentioned, like I know this sounds bananas, because people always say, well, the hierarchy, the 1%, the one that controls, they're never going to change. They're
mhm,
always going to. You got to also remember that people get tired and
mm,
fed up.
yeah,
And time again, people have stood up for what they believe in.
yeah,
But it's not even about that. It's more about the fact that you got to like find what you want to be as an artist in your life.
mm,
Do you want to belong to somebody? Do you want to belong to a collective? Do you want to belong to yourself? Like,
mm,
what are you doing? Like
yeah,
saying, well, I want to sing. That's fucking nice. A lot of people want to just sing.
right, right, right.
Why are you doing it?
Absolutely.
Right?
No, I'm with you, and I've gone through this process in my own mind many times and recently, and I've had to get really clear on what it is I actually want out of life, and I think that, because for me, I've wanted to do music since I was really young, and I've kind of had this tunnel vision for it. And in a sense, it kind of became my identity, right? And untangling that and kind of getting really clear on the why has helped me kind of stay zoomed out and not be so attached to results or, um, expectations, right? And it's allowed me to kind of create a custom vision for my life that doesn't fit the the prefabbed, right, quote unquote, expectations of the music industry. And it makes me feel really empowered and in control of my life and my career. And I am trying to communicate how to do that to other artists. It's one of the reasons why I jump on podcasts and talk to people, is because I think that there's just so much room for something different, you know?
It's also getting out of that mundane mindset. I mean, look, I know things are shitty and I know things are terrible,
Yeah.
but we live in an incredible time right now.
Yeah.
I mean, for God's sakes, this is bananas, okay? My parents are interracial, all right? My dad is African. My dad was from Morocco.
Mhm.
And my mom is third generation American. She has European ancestry,
Mhm.
okay? They got married in the 70s,
Mhm.
okay? And they had racial misconduct in the 70s,
Huh.
okay, with my mom's side of the family because my dad wasn't white.
Wow.
So that kind of thing existed like 40 years ago. But
Yeah.
think about like now, right? Most couples are interracial.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, most
It's
people are. Yeah.
pretty common. It's not really common anymore for people generally being the same race or same culture, same ethnicity.
Yeah.
So you want to say, yeah, back in the day is great,
Yeah.
but look how much we have now compared to back in the day.
No,
You know what I mean?
absolutely. We're light years ahead of where we were. And but I think, like anything, you get kind of, you don't have 2020 vision, right? And
No.
it's easy to get stuck on what's still not working. And that's fair enough. There are a lot of people who are still suffering from, the systemic issues. But I agree that I think it's good every once in a while to step back and appreciate. what we do have and make the best of it.
Yeah, it is. I mean, because there's so much that you can be angry about,
Mm,
and so much you can be selfish about. I mean, because look, it's right now, I personally feel it's the hardest to make a living as an artist.
mm.
You know, things are cost a lot more, things are a lot more expensive. And you can feel very limited because a lot of the times things kind of fall into that, monetary where you need money, to propagate and do this and open up that and build from here. And then add into that this new attitude of, well, why do we have to work 40 hours a week? Like, God, torture, such torture.
No, I'm with you. I was having a coughing fit. Yeah, I mean it's all valid. I think that it's just people have to take the time to understand what's happening and really figure out what they want out of life. Because yes, we live in this world where we have to work, we have to make money, but at the same time, it's never been easier to make money, right? It's never been easier to start a business. You can literally start a business from your phone with like not even a website. You just need to like kind of figure out sort of what you're doing, right? Take some pictures, whatever.
Hmm.
So it's always it's always the two extremes, right? And I think for some people the 40-hour a week life really works, you know. They love that. They thrive in that environment. For some people they don't, you know? And it's just yeah, I think it's just a matter of kind of sitting with yourself and trying to figure out what works for you and making a plan to get there.
Well, the thing about it is, like you put it, in short, it's where you're not trying to figure out the next 50 years. I don't think
Mm,
anybody realistically can figure out the next 50 or 70 years of your life because you don't know if you're going to be around for 50 or 70 years.
sure.
But having that basic layout and structure to where you not only kind of know where you're going,
Mhm.
but you have a direction. You
Mhm.
kind of know how to use your compass that's in front of you.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think for myself it's been a process of getting clear on what I want, and what I've realized is I want the thing that I want the most out of life is freedom, time freedom, financial freedom. Oh, sure. Where I've landed personally is that I really value time freedom and financial freedom to be able to pursue the things that feel the most satisfying to me, because I'm a little bit of a hedonist in that I believe that we're kind of here on accident, and so we might as well enjoy it and make the best of it. Um, and so, yeah, that's just kind of what I'm working toward.
It's so weird because it's so weird. It's so weird because when you look at, for example, like Native Americans, right? Native Americans primarily, they didn't have jobs.
Hmm.
I mean, they kind of did, like some of them were warriors and some of them were hunters, but everybody had kind of a task that they were doing.
Yeah.
They were kind of like interacting and being with nature. I know this is so like, whoa, but we live now in a society that is completely the opposite of that,
Mm,
where in order to be a part of society, you need currency. And
yeah.
in order to have currency, you need a job. And in order to
Mhm.
have a job, you need to be a part of the system. And if you're part of the
Mhm.
system, you have to give back to the system.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah.
great. It's fucking fantastic. It's called capitalism, baby.
It's yeah, it's structured society. I mean, and yeah,
The only
you
one
could
that works, surprisingly. I mean, all the other ones suck.
yeah, and I think the thing that capitalism has that the others don't is this kind of dangling carrot, right? That
Hmm.
there's always the chance that it could be you, right? And in a sense, that's really true. It's just that I think the culture has framed wealth in such a um what's the term? Um
A percentage bracket.
well, yes, but the word I'm looking for is elusive. Like
Ooh, ooh,
they
okay.
the culture has kind of made wealth this like elusive thing when really wealth is all around us all the time and it's actually not hard to generate wealth if you know what you're talking about. So, I think the thing about capitalism that works is the system in and of itself doesn't work for most people, but there's always the chance that it can work for you should you take the time to figure it out. And it drives people forward because we have this nature in our humanity, in our biology, to always be curious, to always be pushing to the next thing, find the next thing.
It's interesting on how we as humans have these interactions specifically with the arts.
Mm.
The way that people feel when they're at a Broadway show
Mhm.
or when they hear an orchestra or hear like at a concert.
Mm.
I can tell you from my own experience, you asked me about concerts that I've been to, and I can kind of like zone back
Go
in
there,
there.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, totally.
And the thing about it is, you know, we may be the aliens to this planet.
Sure.
We're always talking about the alien. Like, what if humanoids? What about if Homo sapiens, our
Mhm.
species, whatever we are, is an alien?
Right.
That came in asteroids or comets millions of years ago, and these little cells splashed and fell into our waters and decided to reproduce.
I mean, in a sense, that's already true. I mean,
Yeah.
we evolved from I don't know how you feel about evolution, but we evolved from
I don't believe in.
those.
I'm not religious in any shape or form, and I very strongly believe in science more than anything. So,
Okay,
you're
awesome.
preaching to the choir. Yes.
Okay, cool. I don't know. You never know these days
I know, and you
who's
might
a
get
flat
people.
earther secretly.
Oh my
But yeah, I mean, we
god.
did. We came from outer space technically,
Technically,
because
yes.
we evolved from these little tiny creatures that came as a result of the Big Bang, and it just took us a couple billion years to become who we are today. So yeah, in a sense, you're not wrong.
You know what I love though? There's been a recent question about the Big Bang because there's a belief that we think of an end and a beginning
Mm,
because we are structured in an end and a beginning.
hmm.
Now, just as much as I love Star Trek and they create these immortal beings, it's a great analogy as to there could be beings or whatever that are powerful enough, whatever they
Mm,
are, that they have no beginning and ending. And
yeah.
you know what, even simplify it down to this. This is the same way how crustaceans can see 14 colors
Mm,
and we have we're way more, I think it's like 6
mm,
or something like that. Don't quote me on this. But so that means they can see more colors than we can,
right. So
right?
more colors exist that we're aware
Correct.
of. Yeah.
So, but does that mean that those colors don't exist? No,
No. Yeah. I mean,
it's that we can't see them. So
yeah. I think of the radio all the time. Right.
we don't
If
see
we
radio waves.
Right, and but I'm thinking about, like, the fact that we discovered them. When did we discover radio? In the early 1900s or
Yeah,
late 1800s,
yeah,
right?
early
That
1900s.
that's
Yeah,
not a long time ago, right? But radio waves existed forever before we discovered them. So what else have we not discovered yet, right? And look what we've been able to do with radio. And it's not even just about what you can do with it, but it's just the fact of that holding space for the very real possibility that there is so much more that we have yet to uncover, and the wonder of that, and also the crazy incomprehensibility of that.
Well, I mean, it's kind of wild because if you think about like the past 100 years, it, like it's right now 2024, but go back to 1924.
Mhm.
Okay, 1924 was a very wild time. Okay, like you
Yeah.
didn't need a driver's license, you didn't need a license plate, you didn't ask government for shit. Like you wanted to smoke marijuana, you could smoke as much marijuana as you wanted to. I'm serious. Like there
Yeah.
was no problem,
Yeah.
and but there's probation.
Mhm.
So there's all of these other avenues where people are making. I remember, I remember my grandfather told me a story that there was somebody that in prohibition he made so much money that when the crash happened,
Mm.
he not only like plateaued his wealth, but he was able to like create his own monopoly
Oh,
and just
wow.
get the fuck out of the country.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
that's 100 years ago,
I
right?
know. Yeah.
It's not that long ago, but
Yeah.
how the times have changed since then.
It's crazy. I mean, the more I don't know, are you aware of the law of diminishing returns? It's basically
No.
it's basically the concept that at at a certain point, um, more productivity becomes less productive. So, for example, if you think about all of our modern inventions, so the washing machine, the dishwasher,
Mm-hmm.
cars, right? Those are all invented to give us more time, like to give us our time back, right? But what has happened, the law of diminishing returns comes in and says, well, now you have all this free time because you're not washing the clothes and you're not walking to the grocery store and you're not washing the dishes. You should be filling that time with something else. So now all of these things that are supposed to give us our time back have now actually created a system where there's more demand on us, right? That's the law of diminishing returns. And I think you see that as time has gone on, and we call it, that life has become more complicated as opposed to, back when life was simple, right? And yeah, maybe you did have to wash your clothes in the river and you had to go walk, you know, half a mile to get water, but that's all you had to do that day.
I honestly feel like the modern inventions that I live down here in South Florida, and let me just tell you, if there was not there was no such thing as air conditioners,
Mhm.
dear Lord have mercy, it is hell. And like I've been to, like, for example, like I've been to Santo Domingo, which is in the Dominican Republic, and
Mhm.
they don't have air conditioners over there. I mean, you
Yeah.
you can manage, but like just thinking about just the basic things that you have, but the price that you pay to have those things, because the price
Yeah.
of having an air conditioner means that you have to pay the electrical company.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Hmm. Hey, it's Dave, and I quickly just wanted to jump in and say if you've been enjoying the podcast and enjoying this episode, if you can leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, that'll be so greatly appreciated. Because here's the thing, someone might read that review and make the choice if they want to listen to the podcast. You get to help grow this podcast with us. How fucking cool is that? Let's jump back to today's episode. They're like, you
Yeah.
can't use your air conditioner for free. We're going to pay you for the energy that you're using.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's again the law of diminishing returns, right? It's like, okay, I have this amenity, but now I have to go to work to pay for the amenity, right? And now I need a car to get to work, and I have to pay for the car. But wait, now I need more money, so I have to work harder to pay for the car, right? Like so it all, it's like one step forward, two steps back.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, that kind of falls in hand with this idea of you can't make it overnight.
Yeah. Absolutely. No such thing unless you win the
No.
lottery. And even then, you'll probably blow it.
No, and honestly, it's the same idea with, like, for example, with podcasting. I always tell people this. Like, if you go into podcasting thinking this is going to be free,
Mm,
try a different hobby.
yeah.
You can't do this. I learned that the hard way. I
Yeah.
mean, when you realize that you have to almost, in a way, like, pay your way into the system
Oh, yeah.
to be
You
able
gotta
to
pay one
have
way or the other.
right. And you don't know if you're going to get any resolution or anything from that, but that's one step and one aspect of it. Whereas the other one is you get to create experiences, and you be able to look at things for what they are and not what they aren't. Make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah. Yeah. That's the name of the game. Oh, it's a toughie. Can I
Sorry,
ask
only
you?
in-depth conversations over here. What?
No, I love it. I'm curious if you're willing to chat about your experience coming out of the cult because I have a similar um background and I'd be curious to hear your experience. If you're not comfortable, it's totally
No, no,
fine, but
I'm 100% so I grew up in Muncie, New York. It is the Jewish community outside of the city, which is
okay.
in Borough Park. The part of the community I grew up in was Orthodox and
Okay.
ultra Orthodox. I did not grow up in the Hasidic side, so people don't actually know this. I've had to explain this quite a few times. In the community, there are different sectors. There are primarily four. So there's Hasidim, Yeshivish, Ashkenazi, and Sephardi.
Okay.
So those are your four. And I was Sephardi because my father's
Okay.
Moroccan. And it was very hard. I mean, because I left in 2017,
Mhm.
and I just remembered to myself that I'm proud of my ancestry. I'm
Mm.
not. I do not shy away. If somebody will ask me, I am a Jew,
Mhm.
and I am a Sephardi Jew, and I'm not ashamed of that in any shape or form. But it basically, like, it kind of created a new version of myself where I realized that if I am going to survive, I need to live my life by my own terms.
Mhm. So the cult like define your experience like what about it makes you define it as a cult?
Primarily, there you're not allowed to talk about certain things. When you go to yeshiva, which is
Mm.
where it's an all boys school. Isn't that great? As a gay man, you get an all
Right?
boys school, like, not
Thank you.
traumatizing at all, at all.
My god.
So, and they have a very strict curriculum. The biggest problem, especially now with the Jewish community, is because after the Holocaust, um, they have been trying to create this bubble, so
Mm.
keeping everybody with it. Basically, your hospital and medical, everything's done within the community. So even the
Mm.
hospitals are operating and have even programs in there that
Mm.
are run by the community. There are programs in the community that gives out you loans to be able to help you out in different situations. So you live within the community. If
Mm.
you leave, they cut you off.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds pretty cultish to me.
Yeah, it's
Well,
great.
I'm sorry that you had to experience that.
That's okay.
I wouldn't say that my experience was similar on a structural level, but I did grow up in a very very cult-like Christian atmosphere, and also being gay, it was rough, and I was closeted until I was 23, 24, and I'm 29 now.
Are you
So,
serious?
yeah.
Damn.
So
That's
that's a recent
intense.
journey, you know? But it's interesting cuz right around 2017 was the time that I was starting to make my escape. So, it's we were on parallel
Great
lines
year.
there.
Great
Yeah.
year. I'm just
Yeah.
saying, I'm just saying it's
Yeah.
uh it and it's kind of hard because I sometimes like have a little bit I feel that I have a little bit difficulty talking about it with my partner,
Mm.
because how can you explain a cult to somebody? Because I've had to admit to myself that it was a
Yeah.
cult. I there was a period for a long time like, oh, I didn't grow up in a cult. And I had a friend of mine that she like looked at me straight. She's like,
Mm.
honey, you grew up in a cult,
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah.
And I was like, what? She's like, think about it. And I was like, and you have that moment where you
Yeah.
come to that realization. But
That's hard to accept that because it also comes with so many natural meanings, like logical meaning, like, oh, okay, well, why did my parents allow me to grow up in the cult? Do they love me? Are they
right.
okay? Oh shit, they're still in the cult. What do I do about that?
And
Like it comes with this
and
whole
those memories,
process. Yeah.
the memories you have in there that are wonderful, like the experience you had people in that community and like you
Mhm.
shared good, and that just it just
Yeah.
fucks with
It's too much
you.
to hold. Yeah, cuz they're good memories, but you're also like now you're seeing them from this different lens of like how
Right.
fucked up they really were, the context. Yeah, I totally get what you're saying. Yeah. It's hard to process and hold it all.
it I really don't like to get like this, but I remember as a kid we were taught in school, which is completely not it's completely not true according to Judaism, but they used to tell us that if you're gay,
Mhm.
they used to do that,
Yeah. Mhm.
and you would jerk off, okay, and you would waste the semen, that when you died, they would send you down to hell.
And you'd have to drink it.
No, 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 this is even worse. All of the semen that you've spilled would be these angels that would scream at you shame. Think of like Games
Oh,
of Thrones,
oh
like when
my
she was walking
god.
down naked.
Yeah.
Shame, shame,
Yeah.
shame, shame,
Just like your
shame.
little sperms.
Yeah. Shame, shame, shame,
That's so
shame.
ridiculous.
I know.
Oh my god.
So and the thing about me like now is that like I am in my mid 20s, but I'm realizing more than ever, like I respect people that are religious.
Sure.
I
Yeah.
don't give a flying fuck what you do, but don't put that shit on me.
Absolutely.
Like,
Yeah.
get that shit the fuck away from me. I'm just here
Absolutely.
as an observer, seeing you do your weird stuff, and I'm
Yeah.
I'm clapping with everybody else. You're like, oh, okay, all right, we're clapping now. Okay, cool. Okay,
Yeah. Totally. I mean,
yeah,
yeah, that's but that's the issue, right, with most religious people is they are kind of under this impression that they have a right to impose their systems and their thinking on everyone else, and we see that all the time in politics, right? People trying to push religious agendas onto an entire, nation. So it's hard.
it is because when you really like boil it down to, especially like when you take songs that have those deeper meanings,
Mm,
um especially those that like kind of break things down at its core, and like sometimes there are those type of love songs,
mm,
where you're not only saying on how you feel about somebody but how they make you feel.
yeah.
Because when you, because like think about this, like when you talk about conversations, for example, like abortion, misgendering somebody, you do and you talk about being gay, or things of that nature, there is that like a bit there's this aggression now
Mm,
where like, how dare you, like, whoa,
yeah. Very divisive.
relax.
Yeah.
Like if I said something like let's talk this out, okay, like
Mhm.
why is this getting you upset? Why has that gone away? I mean, where has our like humanity gone to that point where you can't talk,
Yeah.
can't have an open conversation?
Yeah, it's interesting you bring that up because I've been thinking about it recently. And I think what it comes down to is people tend to we have this culture of othering, and
Yeah.
it's we're very extreme, right? It's like either you completely agree with me or you are my enemy. And people don't have the skill set. I think it's just a lack of, you know, having the language and the awareness around how to actually find a middle ground. Um and yeah, it creates this really divisive, aggressive undercurrent in our culture where we're kind of afraid of anyone who doesn't think the way we think.
Yeah, and it's very strange also when your outlook and your perspective doesn't have to be the exact same.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because a lot of the times, there's this idea of outlook and perspective being equal.
Mm,
Outlook and perspective. Okay, when I specifically mean outlook and perspective,
mm,
is when you see somebody that's crying on the street,
mm.
outlook. What's your perspective? Are you going to
Right,
be like, well, somebody else will take care of it?
right,
Or, is that person okay?
right. Yeah,
Like, okay, is this a safe area? Like, do I have to call somebody?
right, right. Yeah, and we differ on those things all the time, and
Right, exactly.
yeah,
So, how is it possible to say, and again, having equal agreement, right, and equal perspective on things is not possible? I mean, it's like the simplest things that you can ask for
mm,
have nothing to do with religion, has nothing to do with your belief, like safety, community, and well-being.
mhm.
Is that so? Does any of those revolve religion? It's funny how all three of those have somehow managed to be wrapped around religion in this country for so many years.
Well, it's about control, controlling the narrative, and I think religion is all about safety. I think religion is like a very, very, very um, convoluted way of trying to get those needs met, and it really does boil down to feeling this sense of safety. And to be honest, when I look back on my life, I never felt more in community than when I was involved in those religious groups. Religion is great at providing that sense of community, but it comes with conditions. And that's why
Lots
it's
of
unhealthy.
conditions.
And that's why it's unhealthy, right? Because it's not unconditional community, it's very much conditional community. And a person has to decide, okay, well, do I sacrifice all these other things that I need, like, to be gay and open, or to be trans, or to be whatever, to disagree with the fucking pastor on something, right? Like, do I sacrifice these things in order to maintain this community? Or do I sacrifice this community in order to go and make peace with these other things? And I think a lot of people just don't have the capacity and the resources to choose the latter.
I think it's also where you have to come to agreement with yourself. Yeah, I know that, like, we've been talking a lot about this, but I've had to, like, come to terms with my own sexuality
Yeah.
because I've been raised to be judged by it.
Hmm.
And what can I say? I like men.
Yeah.
Like, it's I can't help it. It's what I'm attracted to.
Yeah.
And the weirdest thing is where, like, I have, like, my best friend and we were talking about this. We're As a gay man, we can be attracted to women too.
Sure, of course.
But it there's nothing sexually about it. Like,
Yeah.
that's also the thing about, like, again, kind of tying in with, like, specifically with music, right? Where you can have a song that's all about attraction towards somebody,
Mm.
but it's not sexual.
Yeah. Absolutely. And people don't really write about that, though, right?
It's not common. No. I'm
No.
trying to think of it'll come to me. Just,
Yeah, there's probably something out there, but
there's gotta be.
yeah.
Maybe
Well,
hasn't been made in 65 years. Hmm?
I know, right? Well, I am so sorry. I have a 10:30, but um I really enjoyed our chat, and I really appreciate you jumping on here and talking with me. You're
Mm-hmm.
so awesome. You're really like a light.
My pleasure. Well, listen, thank you so much for coming on. Where can these wonderful people find you?
You can go to my website, nismahosman.com, nismahosman.com, and we can talk about music and all sorts of cool stuff.
Hey. All right. Well, listen, if you want to check out more of the podcast, you can find us on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, and Lost in the Groove Pod. Otherwise, thank you so much, Nisma, for coming on. And